Home the gold.
He could be too far. No, he's kicking. Oh, what a catch!
Puts a spicy forehand out in front of Naomi Morcilla.
Wu for the win. Team Canada. Garrett Wu!
Santos with the layout grab.
Oh, that fantastic grab. The claws of Chaffer.
Canada just became the world champions.
Canada, the rest of the world. You're listening to the Huckin Eh podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Theo Wan, from the best city in the universe, Toronto, Ontario.
And I'm Danie Proby from the actual West Coast, Vancouver, BC. Together, we make your coast-to-coast guide to all things Canadian Ultimate, but not really coast-to-coast guide. It's like coast to like mid-Canada guide to Canadian Ultimate. Do you confirm or deny?
Well, it's funny that we say Toronto or Ontario is on the East Coast when the real East Coasters do not like that. So Nova Scotians, I think that's what they're called, maybe. People in Newfoundland, they don't like it when we say Ontario and Quebec are on the East Coast because that's definitely not true. So
I wonder if
I'll
they
make sure not to say that again.
like it when we say this every episode.
I don't think we do it every episode.
We did last episode.
It's a recurring trope for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of Ultimate, how are you?
That's classic. I did, what did I do on the weekend? I did, we'll talk about this in the news, but I did some evaluating for a tryout and was up 5:40 in the morning there. So it was a little early, 2 days in a row. So that was good times. But that's kind of the ultimate, the side of things for me. Yeah, pretty chill otherwise. I know, Danny, I'm not even going to talk too much about me because I know you got some burning questions for me today. We talked about off record, but we're going to bring it onto the record here. And I actually didn't hear the question you were going to ask me. So this is like first time hearing it. Okay.
You get all
For
the behind the scenes audience always. Nothing's a secret at the Huckin Eh podcast.
No secrets here.
Okay. So this is something I've been kind of noodling with. Oh, exciting news. I just got an invitation to the second closed trial for traffic. Just came in. So congratulations me. Woo! Okay.
Hey, that is ultimate related.
It's
so we
ultimate
do like
related.
that on the podcast.
That's good timing. Now I'm even happier. So no, but this thing that I've been noticing in Ultimate, so I coach a high school team and I know a lot of high school players that I've coached in club or are in my leadership program or whatever. And so they all kind of come to me if they have issues or something on the field. And it's kind of been an epidemic in high school Ultimate this year where the spirit is just like very bad for some teams, like way worse than ever before. And it was kind of shocking. So when I'm coaching in a couple games, like some of the stuff that was happening on field, I was like literally jaw dropped. And the coaches also don't really know the sport very well. And so they're sometimes even instigating the bad spirit and they just don't understand the culture. And I've been talking with a few other folks that are kind of like high up in the Ultimate scene, like they're organizers and they coach high level teams and stuff. And they're saying and noticing the same things. And so it's like, we haven't had a high school Ultimate for a couple of years. Now we have this whole crop of Ultimate athletes that have never played club. They've never really seen spirit or what it looks like. And we have this whole new group of coaches that have come from basketball, they come from soccer. And so the games are honestly quite bad. So some examples, like a kid will pick up the disc or it'll be a turnover and the kid will be like, hey, pass it to me. And then they look at them in the eye and like throw the disc straight out of bounds away from the person who's asking for the disc. Or a team
on the same team?
Well, the other team's asking for it because it was like a turnover and they just like chuck it out to the side. And then another thing is like teams are saying really mean things on the sideline. They're saying, say a female matching player drops it, this is why I never pass to girls. Like it's some really toxic stuff happening. And it's kind of very at odds with what I fell in love with Ultimate about and what challenged me as an athlete to kind of change my perspective. I used to hate the other teams when I was playing against them in other sports. And Ultimate has taught me that you can still compete at the highest level and respect your opponent at the same time. And I'm kind of at a loss right now. Like Elevate has a platform. We do these videos. We have a Discord now with all these athletes. Like we have a lot of opportunities to potentially educate, change some things. And as somebody who's in media, I'm just curious if you, off the top of your head, have any suggestions, ideas of what we could do to kind of like help right the ship in the right direction.
Yeah, first of all, Danny, thank you for sharing that information. Because based on what you're saying and your posture and like how you're talking, I think the audience can understand this too. This is very hit home for you, and it's something that you're definitely thinking about. I'm curious to know sort of like, I know CUC or Ultimate Canada had requirements just come out for coaches and stuff. Is there something similar to that for in the high school scene over there? Like, do coaches have to kind of show any form of competence with the rules of Ultimate or anything like that? Or they're kind of just like, I want to coach and that's it?
Absolutely no requirements other than a pulse and a willingness to show up. So it's hard because this is the other issue, is that there's lots of kids that want to play, and there's such a shortage of coaches, and an even bigger shortage of coaches that have any kind of training and coaching, any kind of background. So not only is there's this whole group of coaches that they're volunteering their time and they're doing probably what they think is best, but they don't have the education and they don't have the background to kind of lead their team. And it's hard to teach spirit. It's hard to teach the rules. There's a lot of stuff to cover. You have to teach forehand, backhand. All of a sudden a team is zoning you week one. And there's just so much stuff going on. So I totally understand. I'm just feeling like I have resources. I have a platform. I think you're alluding to some sort of certification preseason, and I think that's a great idea, coming up with a little like spirit quiz with some videos attached and something before schools have to kind of sign in to the league or something. So I like that idea. So keep rolling, Theo.
Well, yeah, certification or a class or something, like it makes absolutely no sense if there are people coaching the sport that don't even know the rules like that. Like, I guess fundamentally people understand that, like, oh, okay, if there's a basketball coach, basketball is pretty universal with the rules. Like, everyone kind of knows the general rules. But with Ultimate, it's a little bit different, especially because it's not, one of the mainstream sports everyone generally knows the rules of. So I think, yeah, not having coaches that don't know the rules, like coaching the next generation, is kind of scary. I'm not saying all the coaches are like that, but like a clinic of some sort, quiz, something. Actually,
Yeah.
I'm going to go further than this, and not just juniors. I think every adult club player should have to do a rules quiz before they play like in a national championship or something. Because like if it's a self-officiated sport and you don't know the rules, like that's a problem. Because like that's the whole fundamental of the game. So that's a whole Spice take right there. I believe that you should have to do like there should be something, because we had an observer in our team and he would ask us stuff and and myself included, I was like, I don't know if that's the rule. Like, and he was like quizzing us and we're like, I'm not sure. What do you think? It's like, and that happens on the field, right? So those are a couple of my suggestions, and sort of one of my perspectives, I think, is because the youth watch a lot of mainstream sports highlights. I'm just going to assume that. And Danny, I think you know what I'm alluding to here, but there's a lot of trash talk in certain sports, and like, people get dunked on or get clowned on or whatever they say. So maybe that's kind of infiltrating into like the Ultimate sphere as well. I don't know. That's just another thought I had.
It's definitely a thing. Like, I've heard some of the most rude things being said to the athletes that I'm coaching. It's pretty crazy. And also, like, coaches that I'm coaching against clearly don't know the rules. And then when you step onto the field to tell the athletes what the rule is, not make a ruling, not give an opinion, but take the opportunity early season to explain what the rule is, to be met with like, you're interfering with the game. It's like, no, I'm actually not. You need to learn the rules. And this is an opportunity to learn them, and I'm being patient about it. So anyways, I'm thinking we're going to do some like question quiz poll things on our Elevate Instagram. I'm thinking about creating kind of like common rules videos, make it like kind of personable, and like send them out weekly or something, like province wide. I don't really know. I kind of have a lot of ideas. It's hard to implement midway through the season, but there are some videos of really good spirit, or how calls can be resolved on the field calmly. Like, all of the players on my high school team, when there was a call, they'd get so uppity. They'd be like, "What? What are you talking about? There's no way!" La, la. And they're freaking out. Their arms are up in the air, and they were like that at the beginning. And I've really had to work hard to teach them how to like be calm and make a calm call, and it takes a lot of effort. And I'm a very experienced coach, and it takes me a lot of effort. So I can imagine a new coach, if I could just give them the resources, teach them how to teach it, maybe that's the answer. And as you're saying, some sort of certification or check mark or check box before they can even begin is the first step.
Yeah, something to prove that they kind of know. Like, I'm not saying you need to know. Like, it'd be good to know all the rules, of course, but like kind of the main rules. Like, there's certain, obviously, some more intricate stuff that even the most experienced ultimate players struggle with in terms of rulings. But yeah, something like that, and then, as you said, a video series or something where high school players can see like players at the highest level, like at club, semi-pro, like internationally, like resolving calls in a peaceful way, as you said. Like seeing that in action, like that'd be kind of cool. Like seeing a big sky, but then like the two players high-fiving after. Because like if you watch like Ball is Life or like Overtime, for those ballers out there, you know that most of their highlights are guys dunking on each other, flexing on each other, like trash talking after. And like that's, I mean, it kind of happens sometimes in Frisbee, but like not really. And so like when you see the like, you know, people high-fiving each other after a sky, like that's really cool. And that would be an example, like to show that the youth of tomorrow, the youths, as they say.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because it's not interesting. It seems pretty obvious to me, but it's not the club players, the kids that played Mischief or on my Ducks team last year. Like those are the ones that are like the beacons of hope for Spirit on their teams. But if a team is like new, they're a bunch of basketball, soccer players, so they're super athletic. They don't maybe have a club player on their team, and they have an inexperienced coach. That is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I can already just think of that right now. That's a recipe for lack of knowledge of the rules, a lack of spirit, and it's just like, and yeah, I just could imagine it not going well. So, Danny, I definitely feel your pain in this, and we know, Danny, there are coaches that listen. So, coaches, if you have suggestions for Danny or administrators, whoever, players, send them our way. Instagram, email, huckineh@ultiworld.com. We've been getting less emails, more Instagram DMs. So, you know, we can accept the emails as well. But send us your suggestions of what you think could be done. Obviously, maybe not this year kind of thing because you're mid-season, but something to think about for next year. And it'd be interesting to see if other coaches, you know, I know it's big in Manitoba, just like what other high school coaches are doing. That'd be good to know.
Agreed. It's just it's like I want to like shake these players a little bit and be like, look at all these good club players. How are they behaving? Like they're so much better than you, and they're also like respecting their opponent at the same time. It is possible. You can do both. So I'm going to do what I can this season. I will accept any and all suggestions, advice. Slide into my DMs personally at Danie Perobi on Instagram. Give me a follow.
Wow, she's like really throwing off the Instagram there. I know you got more followers than me, so you're definitely hyping up the social media there. My question is also, is there like pre like are these like league games or is it like a tournament?
League games, tournaments, all the things. So we're
Okay.
kind of coming up on the end of our regular season. So our zones and our banner tournaments are happening starting kind of within the next 2 weeks. And so it's definitely ramping up, and you're definitely seeing some intensity. And there's some parts of it that make me feel like I elevate's a little bit responsible for some of these intensities. Like we're doing some power rankings, we're doing match, we're sharing match stuff on our stories, and we're trying to bring a lot of fun and excitement. And I think that is working. But on the flip side, some teams are to bagel this team. Instead of playing our bench and developing our players, we want to have the most impressive score that we can.
To boost up the rankings.
Yeah. And so and people are sliding to the DMs complaining about the rankings, which I mean the engagement is
I'm sorry with the laugh, but that is really funny to me. It sort of reminds me of like, I don't know if there's a movie in particular here, Danny, but it's like you've created this like monster. I won't call it a monster, but you've created this like thing, and you've let it go, and you're like, what have I done?
Yeah, no, with
What
great
have I
power
done?
comes great responsibility. So
There
I'm
you go.
excited to brainstorm and to figure out a way to kind of turn these seasons around. I think it's important. I don't want to lose kids because
Yeah.
they didn't get a real ultimate experience. Like that would break my heart. And so I'm determined. Yes.
That's why I was asking about the tournament piece, because obviously at some of these main tournaments, especially CUC, there's like a technical or players meeting or I should say captains meeting or something. So maybe if there was like a coaches meeting before like some of the tournaments, like kind of hash out, a couple quick points, and all coaches obviously would have to show up. Um, Not certification or anything like that, but an easy way to maybe communicate some things to the coaches beforehand. Like if the TD is there, laying down the law.
Yeah, that's a good point. There is a big tournament actually happening this weekend where a lot of the districts and I think top 10 of the top 16 that we've power ranked are going to be in this one tournament this weekend. And so that could be a good opportunity to kind of spread awareness. Although usually if they're a top ranked team, they're likely pretty good at spirit too, because they have club players. So
Mm.
um, I'll keep thinking on it. I'll keep thinking on it. This episode has been brought to you by VC Ultimate. VC Ultimate is a company that proudly puts values and community before profit. VC is the world's best source for quality, design, and all of your ultimate needs.
Hey, this is Karen Hatch, captain of Winnipeg Fusion, and you're listening to the Huckin Eh podcast, your coast-to-coast guide for all things Canadian Ultimate.
Danny, to sum it all up, that was a good discussion brainstorm for the audience to see that. You got some venting out, not as much venting as you did a couple episodes ago with the keyboard warriors. So
Yeah.
hopefully that was helpful for you.
Yeah, it did bring some more clarity for me, for sure. And I definitely feel a bit of responsibility. So I will lean into that with open arms.
There you go. Now we are going to lean into the news right now.
We now have breaking news.
Welcome to your news section. Theo, take a big deep breath in. And exhale. Are you ready?
Lots to come.
It's going to be you for a while. So I'm here for emotional support, but there's so much stuff happening in like the middle of Canada into the East Coast. So hit us up. Start from the top.
Well, the top news item I have right now is World Games had their training camp. All the athletes were there. I popped in Saturday. Many may have been disappointed there was no live stream. They were anticipating it at home, waiting by their phones. But I wanted to keep the trade secrets there in-house. So sort of like, don't want any spies from other teams there seeing what's going on. So that's sort of what happened there. But yeah, I saw they did some zone work, which was really cool. Super windy at York University. And then they did some scrimmage, saw some really great plays from both, from a lot of the players, both genders. It was just really cool, honestly, just to sit in the stands and just watch good Frisbee.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is like the pinnacle of like our country. These are the best players, and I'm just watching them ball out. Like big skies, big throws, and just like them having fun. It was such a positive culture there, and they just look like they were all having fun. I just feel sad in some ways because some of them won't make the full team. So it's like, and it's really cool, but also sad, Danny. Like, I can't imagine, like, I will never get to this level, but I can't imagine that, like, kind of feeling of you want to support everyone, but you're also competing for a spot potentially with, like, against them. So
Yeah.
I don't know what you think about all of that, but it made me kind of sad, but yeah.
It's definitely sad. I think the coaches do a good job of really relaying that even if they're not the ones selected to compete, that they're still a part of the team and part of the process. And in years past, the people that didn't quite make it or the alternates were actually able to go, but I don't think that is true this time. I do have a question for you. From what you were watching, did anyone specifically pop off?
Oh gosh, this is a dangerous question. Dangerous. So in terms of what I saw, Christophe Tremblay-Jacques, I'll give you a shout out right now. He had one catch I couldn't believe. Like he he's done this before in the AUDL where he like twisted around and like made like this like sweet grab, and I was just like, holy smokes, like this guy's super athletic. Honestly, it was really cool to see like all the different playing styles as well, like in terms of players balling out and just playing styles. Like I've heard of like Maria Boscheman, like was on our podcast, got to see her play, got to see her, out there handling. So it's cool to see some of these players ball out. I'm going to cop out and say I could shout at everyone, but
we
just
hate
seeing.
that.
Sorry,
we hate that.
We do hate that. I'm honestly, yeah, that's true. We do hate that, and so I will not default to that. Let's just say. So yeah, Kristoff for sure on the male matching side, and then on the female matching side, I've seen Hannah Dawson play before, but just seeing her handle and kind of just running some of the offense and just kind of the way she was facilitating things, that impressed me. Sarah Jacobson, another shout out. Yeah, we'll see if these players make it. We have no influence on that, but she was doing well downfield for them, and so yeah, it was cool to see. Also, I'm now just things are percolating in the brain here, but seeing a lot of like the team run with even exclusively female matching handler sets as well. So Molly Lewis getting the disc center to her, that was really cool. And then just seeing some of the battles downfield. The different male matchups, like they were just going super hard. Big guys like Kevin Underhill was going up against Morgan Hibbert at some points, and you could just see like there was a real big battle there on all sides, and that was really impressive to me. I was just soaking it in, Danny. I was just soaking it in. I don't want to make these decisions. Carla, Maddie, good luck, because I don't know how you're going to do it.
Yeah, I think after listening to the Ultiworld interview with Maddie Sang, I think that kind of gave me a different perspective on the World Games because there's so few spots. You have to be very careful about the people you select, and the people also have to be really malleable to different playing styles. And so there's a lot more things you need to consider. A person, like, as you said, everyone there is like very, very good. They're obviously at the top of the game. So you're kind of like splitting hairs in terms of making final decisions. So it's about chemistry. It's about, can they match up on the other team's big person, or can they transition into a cutter from handling and stuff like that. And so there's a lot of other like intricate things that go into the selection process. Definitely tough to make those calls.
Yeah, don't know how you're going to do it, but we look forward to hearing it. I was told like late May-ish. I know there's another training camp back in Vancouver, and then also Poultry Days.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Team USA will be there, World Games.
Is that being filmed, do you know? Because I know they've filmed like that game before, like that showcase game.
I can't imagine Ultiworld won't try to get their mitts in there, you know what I'm saying? But I think that the teams, if they are being filmed, are going to definitely be holding stuff back. Like I know these coaches don't have much information about these other teams, and so that is definitely going to be an interesting one because they don't want to like let out all of their secrets, but they also want to test their secrets out against an opponent that doesn't know them. So it's definitely tough.
Yeah, maybe in the other pool play matchups that they have, they could maybe bring a little bit more of the secrets if the games aren't being filmed. But
yeah,
definitely
someone will be watching though.
Yeah, in the bushes or something, like with a camera recording for the team.
Yeah,
that probably would happen. We're gonna keep it moving here in the news though, instead of boring you with our banter. So we're gonna go into my neck of the woods. I guess we're gonna start with Toronto Union. They wrapped up their tryouts. Some of the tryouts they had, I wasn't there for it, but I was home, so I know the weather outside, and it looked like terrible. So kudos to everyone who's trying out in the rain and just like bad weather. Was told in the club chat, which if you're not involved, you need to DM us. We got to promote that as well. But 150 people at their first tryout. Is that something that you would see in Vancouver for mixed at all, Danny? Like, that's a pretty high number, I feel like.
It's hard. I think if we had a more cohesive mixed system, it's possible. Because I know like Red Flag and TT were running tryouts, or maybe it was TT and Fable running tryouts at the exact same time, kind of forcing people to choose early on, as opposed to having like one big mixed tryout. So it kind of diluted everybody a little bit between the three mixed teams. So hard to say. There's actually 4 mixed teams in Vancouver now. So I think all in all, it'll probably be about 150. Fable, TT, Red Flag, and Mola Mola.
Mola Mola. I like the name.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
It's cute.
yeah. You know what's interesting too, Danny, is that as we've talked about before, the mixed teams in Vancouver, like they kind of have their own identities and they're not like under one umbrella. Whereas like Union, Zen, MMV, like are all under like the umbrella, and like people have moved up from MMV to Zen to Union, and it's very like it's more structured in that way. So it's just interesting that you know different cities do it different ways. Speaking of kind of that structure, Toronto, same thing, open system, kind of what I alluded to earlier. You know, something happened with the fields. You know what happens? Bookings change. And so instead of like kind of a midday tryout, we got 6:45 a.m. tryouts.
Oh.
People were there. They were balling out. Lots of people trying out for GOAT, GT, and Roy. So that was really awesome to see. May GOAT League, which is a thing, is going to continue where GOAT's going to narrow down their selections and pick some players to go to World. So that's really exciting. Boat also started to finalize their team, finish up their last tryout. So they're kind of, you know, picking their players and ready to go here. Giving some more Toronto shout-outs. I know Toronto getting some love here, but Sixers tryouts are happening the week of this recording, including this coming weekend. So good luck to everyone trying out for Sixers and the second Toronto team as well. And I know we had mentioned how cool that was that that's happening. So from what you told me, I believe Vancouver is having some more women's teams pop up too, correct? Like it's not just going to be traffic.
Correct. I'll talk about that in the West. You've got like so much to go for, Theo.
I got more to go. So we're gonna keep it rolling here. So Iris had sent us an update. They did their tryout late in 2021, and if you follow them on Instagram, you'd have noticed their roster already come out. We did talk about it. So they've been doing some indoor practices, and people in Montreal have been practicing outdoors. And as you know, they recruit players from all over the province. So hopefully these other regions can get going as well. It's kind of what it sounded like. Shout out to one of our former guests, Sasha Palmer. You are now on the Crux leadership, the Hamilton mixed team there. So kudos to you. They're starting their tryouts. Crank from Ottawa wrapping up their tryouts. They said they're very close to having a B team. And it must be awesome, but kind of frustrating because you have almost enough pieces to make that second team, but not enough. And so now you have to like kind of filter them off to like other teams, like the men's development side and the women's development side. That must be just really frustrating.
So close yet so far.
So close yet so far. Another team going to Worlds, Stella. They're, by the time of this recording, they should have wrapped up their tryout. So hopefully we can see their roster and who they're going to bring to Worlds there. That's really exciting for them because they also have it on the women's master side, which I'll talk about later. But I'm going to throw it to you to give myself a break here, Danny. You're going to talk true East Coast news out here.
Before I do, I just want to shout out Iris for their Instagram. If you follow their Instagram, they're putting in work. If you watch their stories and stuff, like their workouts that they're doing look so good and they look so explosive. So I'm really excited to see what Iris can be doing this season because they are putting in work. It is dope. Okay. So Halifax Salty had their tryouts in January and they started doing indoor practices like once a week pretty much right away. And they held their first training camp in April. So they're also ahead of the game, just like Iris, and making teams like Traffic sweat a little bit. So they're now going to be moving to practicing twice a week outside starting in May. Also, Red Circus is wrapping up and hosting their warm-up tourney in Nova Scotia, May 26th. And they want people to reach out to them if they want to go to that tournament. Very exciting.
Yeah, I was going to say Team Ultiworld, like Charlie Keith, you should put together a team and jet off to the beautiful scenes of Halifax, Nova Scotia for that weekend there.
Yeah.
So, that's a possibility right there. I'm just checking the dates here. Yeah, May 28th weekend. That was my wrong there on the script. So, May 28th weekend, go to Halifax, have a good time, eat some lobster, and just enjoy yourself. There you go. So, my alma mater, Maverick Ultimate, they're going a little, if I was running the show, I would maybe not do this, but hey, this is their show now. So they're going with a different approach, starting their tryouts in May after all the other teams have done them. So I know, Danny, you're giving that look. I'm thinking the same look. So they're going with a different approach. We'll see if it works. I'll reserve judgment until then, but I think they're thinking that maybe they'll get some people that didn't make other teams and they'll filter in. But hey, that's the last of my opinion on that. Danny, I don't know if you want to share any opinions related to that at all.
No, my face said it all. If you're watching YouTube, you know my opinion. We'll see how it works out for them.
Yeah, we'll see if it works. So Ottawa, I'm going to give you a big Masters update here. There's a new mixed Masters team on this scene.
Wow.
I know, wow is right. They're called Elder. That's a cool name. No more Nebula. So yeah, another team folding there. I know another mixed team that's folded is Battleship, and there's a new team rising out of the ashes of that. And then Aguada is holding tryouts in Gatineau. And then lowercase Stello, they're getting ready for Worlds in June. That's really exciting that like 2 women's Masters team out of that region are going to Worlds. Like,
yeah,
that is so cool. That's cool. So last bit of news on the east side, AUDL starting this weekend. Ottawa home opener did get rescheduled, but we got Toronto versus Montreal. As I've said this probably last year, since I am affiliated / commentate and do those things, I'm going to abstain, pull a Kirk Herbstreit for any. I doubt many people listening to this podcast watch college football, but Kirk Herbstreit, whenever he's on this game day show, all these people around him, analysts, make picks, and he abstains from making the picks because he's commentating the game. So I'm going to abstain from making the pick. Danny, you got to make the pick. We're going to talk about something else cool after you make the pick, but first, make the pick.
Okay, so given that I'm like a very avid AUDL fan, I just have to like use all of the knowledge that I've accumulated over my years of just reviewing game tape, and I'm on the Montreal hype train, so I feel like Montreal's going to take it down, and I don't even think it's going to be that close. That's my hot take.
Hey, last year, I will say this, there was a fan page, an Ottawa Outlaws fan page that like took audio from our podcast and Charlie and Keith saying like Ottawa's going to be bad, and took the audio of me saying, Ottawa, I doubted you. Like I put you number 3 in the power rankings of Canada. And they use that as fuel. So Toronto, maybe they're going to use that as fuel when they hear this. So
quick question. Where did they finish?
They did finish 3rd. So that's tough. Danny is just throwing shade to everyone right now. I love it.
That's specifically for Jeremy, because the guy trains hard, and when somebody's lighting a fire, he trains even harder. So I expect Jeremy Hill's going to have a killer season for the Outlaws. So
not just Jeremy, a lot of those, I feel like a lot of those players are very fired up.
Yeah,
seeing the results that they had,
they did well.
Seeing that they're not getting the same love, like last year. So get fired up there.
Yeah,
but we did have a great suggestion from someone in the audience to do sort of like an AUDL, because they keep the stats. Like that's the big thing. They keep the stats every week. That's super helpful. We're going to try to do like a weekly. Well, it's going to be weekly, but you're going to want to sign up next week or this week for like the next week 2 of the AUDL when we start it. Where you're going to pick 3. We're going to decide the players, but it's going to be like you're going to pick a few players from the Canadian teams. And if they get a goal, assist, block, you get points. And then at the end, we'll see who wins. Listeners can play. Danny, like she said, with all her avid knowledge, is going to play. Chaboy is going to play that. I'm not picking games the winner, so I'm going to participate in this one. So
do turnovers count as negative in stats?
We should do turnovers. Yeah. Okay. If you throw a Callahan, that's like -5 points or something.
You're out of the game.
Yeah. Like if you're dropping pulls, that's like another minus like 10 or something.
Okay.
But Danny, we do want to ask if an audience member could help us.
Yes, I think I'm on my computer all day. I know Theo is too. And the things that I love doing when I'm on my computer is looking at Ultimate stuff, talking about Ultimate stuff, crunching numbers. So if that sounds appealing to you and you are a fan of the podcast and or the AUDL, both ideally, reach out to us, because we would love to have someone's help with kind of keeping up with the stats and everything. So if you are a stats person, reach out to us. We'd love to create a little crew of us that are making sure that this whole fantasy picks can become a reality.
It's true, and I will also work on the back end of making sure both of us will make sure there's an appropriate prize for it. Maybe you'll get like an autographed picture from Danie and I or something. So definitely worth playing for. Be sent right to your front door, autographed.
Delivered by both of us, actually.
Hand delivered too. Yeah, we'll both fly to your place of residence.
Now we'll give you some swag or something. There'll be a real prize, I promise.
Maybe a subscription, something. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But last news here. News from me, because there's more news to come. Is the first tournament in Ontario is happening May 14th, 15th. Hopefully I got those dates right there. I'm just going to double check. But it's the Toronto Ultimate Exhibition, but it is being played in Brampton. So yes, it's Toronto, but it's being played in Brampton. There's apparently a team coming from Vancouver. I'm not sure which team it is, to be honest. I believe it's a Masters team, but there are teams coming from Vancouver and Winnipeg for this tournament.
Interesting.
So that's all I'm saying. Something owl? Does that make sense? Gray owl or something? Is that?
No idea.
Okay, well, this unknown team is coming from your neck of the woods to play in this tournament. So that's exciting.
Interesting. I'm curious. I thought maybe like Forever Young or something would be a type of team that would go. Maybe. But maybe there's an owl team that I don't know about. It's possible.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So we'll figure that out once the tournament list comes out.
Wait, which division? Is this mixed or?
Well, I believe that there's just going to be open. There are going to be Masters teams there for sure, especially ones that are gearing up for Worlds like still. So I believe it's just going to be open women's mixed from what I hear.
But not, okay, because we don't actually, well, I may as well slip into the West news now. There is going to be a second women's team out of Vancouver. Their tryout process started when Traffic's tryout process started. So the kind of team selectors are watching the Traffic tryouts because whoever kind of gets cut from Traffic is then kind of feeding into the second team system. And they're going to do a rebrand. So last year they kind of fused Koi and Shippos together to become Koish. Koish is like a stand-in name for right now, but I think they're going to do a rebrand. I think the team is going to be fresh, fun, but also willing and wanting to work really hard. There's a lot of young talent that didn't play last year that is back. And I'm hoping that they all land on that team because I think it's going to be great. They're coached by Jen Nichols. And if you know anything about Ultimate, especially in the West Coast, or if you have been involved with Team Canada over the years, Jen Nichols is a household name. She is dope. So I'm very excited for that squad. So I'm curious if something about the like owl team, I wonder if that's them potentially, maybe not. It's just a guess. So
yeah, I don't know if it's the owl team, but I think that the team name should just be called Fresh and Fun. Like that just sounds legit. That's like a pretty sick name in my opinion. You just call it yourselves the Vancouver Fresh and Fun. Like why not?
Yeah, it'd be pretty cute. The jerseys could be like all retro looking. Anyway, I mean that's maybe not what Fresh and Fun would be. Anyways, so Traffic's in the middle of their closed tryouts. As I said at the beginning of this session that I got invited to the next closed tryout. Very excited. So it's going to be Thursday. And then I believe there's one more after that. And then their team should be set pretty quick because I think they're set to do a training camp like the weekend after. So getting that ball rolling right away. Bunny Thugs is shooting for nationals. So that is a goal for their team, which is really great. And they're kind of in the middle of their tryout process right now. And Fusion, out of Winnipeg, mentioned that Manitoba is slowly melting and quickly flooding, which is a great visual. So outside practice is a bit of an unknown for them at this moment. And so it's just crazy to me that it's almost May and they're still talking about snow.
And like winter, it's like winter. That's
insane.
Nuts.
That's insane. It's such a disadvantage. And I think about like the kids I coach in Vancouver year round, like they're playing all the time and places that have kind of less ideal conditions, I guess, from my opinion, what ideal conditions are, they have to wait till they have like indoor time, which is like very coveted, I'm sure. So anyways, they're hoping to get outside. I know they've got a really exciting team. I know Monica Devonshire from Victoria is playing for them just as a pickup, which is great. And their team is is looking awesome. It's a lot of kids that were on the U20 team in 2020 are now playing on their team, plus a lot of their kind of staple veterans. So their team's going to be very exciting. I'm excited to see them at WOC as well. So Cora from Saskatchewan, the women's team there, said they are experiencing their third winter as well. So I don't know what's happening. Canada is struggling. So I think that they are kind of delayed on their tryout process, but hopefully they can get up and running pretty quick here. Last but not least, Furious is in the middle of their tryout process as well. And as I've said before, they just do a bunch of scrimmages for the most part. And so I don't think there are a lot of spots up for grabs. If anything, a lot of veterans are coming back.
Ooh.
So there might be like one or two young ones that can kind of squeak in this year, but it's definitely very, very competitive to play for Furious this year. Oh, I actually have one more update. TT, all of a sudden, so many different players that don't normally play for that team were trying out. It made a lot of people that were playing Blackfish, potentially people that would maybe be considered for traffic, were kind of moving and trying out for TT to play mix this summer. And so their roster is going to look, I think, quite different than it has in years past. And there's quite a little bit of drama in Vancouver about it. So it's hard when you make a team that's a bunch of friends and then you want to try to be competitive. It's hard because you have two identities that are conflicting. So I'm very curious to see that roster. I know they had kind of like a core group that they had selected early on, and then they have some cute names for like the next groupings, whether they're practice rostered, but they also have people that are on the bubble and they call them bubble tea, which is like really funny.
That's clever. That is, I like a good pun. So that is good.
They're kind of like figuring out that process right now. And I feel for the selectors. I think that's really tough to try to balance the chemistry of a team, the goals of the team, and also a lot of like friendships and relationships that have been built over a long period of time.
Yeah, safe to say there's going to be some tears at the end of that trial process.
Always.
For sure. And does TT have a second team, or is it just going to be one team?
It's just one team. They probably could have made a second. It's because mixed tryouts started earlier than the single gender, or at least the women's side. I think that the women's programs might have lost some potential players due to mixed starting earlier, and also maybe poor publicity on the teams. Like I think the second team kind of wasn't out there as much as some of these mixed teams were. They started a little later because the women's combine was just this last weekend and stuff. So I am curious to see kind of how everything falls, but I do know that there's more than enough talent in Vancouver to go around.
Yeah, so this is where my earlier sentiment about and Danny's face about tryouts being later than everyone else comes back. So now you see why she mentioned that. So yeah, that sounds like that's all the sort of news on that end. But we got a quick. We're not going to preview it right now because that's going to be for the week after, like next week. But it is something to talk about. Is U.S. Regionals is coming up. Yes. Why don't you start and talk about New England? There's a lot of competition there. Bids got released. That's really why we're talking about this, is because college bids are now released. We had speculated it when UBC was on our podcast. So now we know for sure how many bids there are. So some regions, you're loving it. Some regions, you're not. Metro East, you just got one like usual. But let's talk about New England first.
Yeah, so for New England women's D1, there are 3 bids, which that seems like a lot to me when I look at that region. And so number 1, Vermont is the top seed going into regionals. They're Ulti-World's power ranked at number 6, or is this USA Ultimate's ranking number 6?
I believe this is Ulti-World's power rankings.
Okay,
here.
and then Brown, number 2, then Dartmouth, then New Hampshire at 4th, and then our hometown heroes, McGill women's team at number 5, and then Massachusetts 6, Rhode Island 7. So McGill definitely has a bit of an uphill battle, but 3 bids. You kind of got to love that.
Yeah, that's I'm looking at it now. That's in the Greater New England region, so or conference. So the Greater New England Conference has those teams. Unfortunately, UMass and Rhode Island, you didn't make the show. You didn't make regionals. So
So
now
going to Metro Boston. Okay, so
Metro
this is where it
Boston,
gets more interesting. So number 11th ranked team Tufts qualified for regionals, so they'll be there too. Boston University with what seems like an upset over number 19 Northeastern. MIT, Harvard also qualified. So 3 bids, and right now, as it seems, 3 teams that are power ranked. But I think McGill put up some good scores at their tournament. Excited to see what they can do, because 3 bids means that there's some that can be for the taking.
Yes, that is true in women's. Unfortunately, if you're on the men's side, that is not the case.
It's crazy.
We're gonna take a look here. I know. I love we're talking U.S. college right now. This is great because we didn't have that, like in the fall of 2021. So 2 bids. We're gonna look first at the Greater New England Conference. 5 teams: Brown, Vermont, Massachusetts, McGill, all in the top 25. Brown being like the considered the number 1 team in the country right now. So you got that. You got Maine bringing up the rear there at number 5. And then you go to the Metro Boston Conference. You got number 17 Tufts, number 12 Northeastern, Boston College, Harvard. So there are, let's count it here, 6 teams in the top 25 power ranked. 2 bids. McGill, we are rooting for you. We want you to get there. We would love to see you there. It's going to be a battle. And if you get there, you're going to earn every single minute of nationals, is all I'm saying. It's going to be awesome.
McGill, you're the wild card, so you got nothing to lose here. Put all out on the line, as you will anyways. We know you will. We've seen your game tape. You're a very exciting team, so
yeah,
we're rooting for you.
Good luck.
Good luck.
That's all I got to say. Northwest now, your neck of the woods. Let's go women's D1. You got the 2 conferences. No BYU, unfortunately. So sorry, BYU fans of that team. They will not be attending regionals.
Right. So it's just it's hard. This tournament's in Walla Walla, which is like quite far for a lot of the actual coastal teams. And this personally impacts me because a lot of my coaches that coach PE programs Monday to Friday are on UBC. And so now they have to take Friday and Monday off just to drive to this tournament.
Is that far?
Yeah, it's far. It's not like a day of driving, but it's enough that you can't leave Friday night.
And no flight, maybe. Probably expensive for the college crowd there.
Yeah. So anyways, that's just a little anecdote. From the Big Sky region, the teams that qualified for regionals were Whitman, Utah, Montana, and Utah State. And from Cascadia, where our little homies reside, UW took the number 1 spot, beating UBC, as we talked about last week. Western Washington coming in 3rd, Oregon coming in 4th, and Victoria sadly just missing out of regionals. So 2 bids. And we have Washington and UBC are the clear favorites to take those 2 bids. They put up very impressive scores against Western and Oregon and like Whitman. So I think that it's theirs to lose at this point. So I think they're sitting pretty comfortably if they just play their game. They're mentally strong. I totally believe in that squad. So not biased. Not biased at all.
Yeah, well, if you were biased, you would have said Victoria's going to make nationals, but unfortunately they did not make the regional tournament. They're just missing out. And like we said last week, weird circumstance. Like no one told us why, and we still don't know. But it's just weird that they didn't play that like final game. You know what I mean? Like it's just still odd to me.
It's weird that in a conference championship where there's 4 teams that are power ranked in the top 20, that there's only 4 bids to regionals. Like that's very strange.
Yeah. I mean, the last couple of years of the college or club scene too, in terms of the USA scene, has been very weird in terms of how they've done things. So
I think there's normally not that many teams coming from the Big Sky. The fact that Utah, Montana, and Utah State are all competing, I think it definitely shifted some bids there. Usually it's overwhelmingly Cascadia.
Yeah, I do love the name Big Sky. So we're going to start there with the men's 2 bids: Big Sky, Utah State, Utah, Washington State, Montana State, Boise State. These are all like the mountain kind of schools. I do love that. Cascadia, you got number 5 Washington, number 21 Ego of Oregon, Western Washington, UVic, UBC, and Oregon State. So UVic and UBC will presumably be seated pretty low in this tournament of, it looks like, 11 or 12. So they're going to be seated pretty low there. Can they make some noise? Can they make some noise with the two bids?
It seems like they always have really good games against each other. Victoria definitely has the edge this year so far. And they're always like, they're in the games with these other teams, but they're never quite coming out on top. So definitely going to have to see what kind of action they can bring May 7-8 in Walla Walla, because they're kind of the underdogs at this point.
Yeah, underdogs, but that's how it works in sports. We've seen it in March Madness. So you play the games for a reason. We're rooting. If we can get UBC, McGill, you're all going to the big dance. That'd be amazing. We do want to see it. The last bit of news I would say, Danny, is a milestone for the podcast. We are stoked. Instagram, holla at your people, because there was a milestone on the weekend. We do appreciate it. We finally hit that 1K, Danny. We said we were on the road to it. Now we've achieved it. How does it feel knowing that we finally hit 1K? We're on the road to 2K now. It's going to be a while, but we're on the road there.
Well, first of all, I have very little to do with it. I think when we were kind of around like the 700, 800, I think that was all me with the college stuff back in college Nats. But these last
sick.
couple hundred, this new surge, that's all you, my guy. Thank you for getting Ultra World to share the sharing duties and responsibilities of all the Canadian content with us, because that's really boosted our notoriety, our publicity. We're a little bit more forward facing now because we are showing highlights of Canadians do sick things. So I want to keep that rolling. So good job.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thanks for doing the college stuff. Thank you, Tanner, for Tanner. I will give a shout out to Tanner Jurek, brother of Cole Jurek. If you follow Men's College Ultimate, you'll recognize that name. And he just gave some, or he's the one who suggested it. Say, hey, you want to collaborate, like do these posts, and then like it can help build up the pod. And I was like, let's do it. So that UBC reel has, I was looking at it today actually, because I'm just proud that UBC getting some love. It has over 100,000 views and like 5,000 likes on it, like 5,300 likes on it.
But how
It's
many
like,
people said travel?
Hey, we're not going to talk about that part, Danny. We're not going to talk about that part. We're going to talk about the 5,000 likes on it.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to be excited about.
That's pretty cool. They deserve all the love that they get. They're a dope team.
Yeah, they seem to, honestly, I like dope teams, but I also like teams that like want to be around each other. So maybe sometimes it's like on social media they do that, but even maybe they're pretending, but it looks like they just genuinely enjoy being around each other. And those are the teams I like to root for.
Yeah.
It's like teams that just want to be together. And they kind of talked about on the pod as well, how they just like hang out, go get bubble tea or do whatever. Like that's the best stuff. So keep that going.
Agreed. It's very important. Team culture can get you a long way. If you trust your teammates off the field, you're going to trust them on the field. And you know that they're going to have your back. So team culture is everything. Everything.
Yeah, that wraps up our episode, Danny. I know we intended this to be a shorter news thing, but it kind of actually became like really a full episode here. So do appreciate you sticking around. You've reached the end of the podcast. This is where we say goodbye. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back, I believe, next week.
Yeah, we'll try.
We're going to try. Make the schedules work here. And get ready for regionals, as we talked about college. First tournament in Ontario happening. When's Flower Bowl happening?
Later in June, actually. Same weekend that Solstice usually is in Oregon. So it's like June 24, 25 or something. Normally it's the first weekend in June.
Interesting. So more tournaments coming for sure.
Roster drops, TC tryouts in the East. Those things are all happening next week. So we're gonna cover them, of course. Of course we are.
AUDL recap from week 1. See if Danny's pick worked out. Did she light a fire under the Toronto Rush? Fantasy, we need a stats keeper. Join us in that. Partner with us. Follow us on Instagram. We're on the road to #2K. Let's go.
Yeah, so thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
Hey friends, this is Morgan Hibbert from Vancouver Furious George and Team Canada, and you're listening to the Huckin Eh podcast, your coast-to-coast guide for all things Canadian Ultimate. Giddy up!